Greetings and welcome to this Litha reading, which is interesting because although it's Litha, which is the summer solstice here where I live in the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere is Yule. And so there's some interesting elements about today's reading because it is both the longest and shortest day and the longest and shortest night, depending on where it is that you live. So it's really something interesting to tap into when we look at how the world is in some ways a perfect representation of the duality that we exist in and the oppositions that we can tend to face. And so as I prepare to move into, the summer season and friends that I have are now moving into winter, there's different things that you're thinking about. There's different things that we're preparing for, while at the same time, there's things that are the same. And so I decided to create this spread with that in mind that, two realities can exist at the same time, and that both realities, whether we're directly experiencing it or we're just aware that it's happening, can have an impact on what's going on in our lives. So I decided to throw together a very quick little reading for you. And today's reading is going to be 3 cards, which I will kind of explain more as we get into it. But let's start by getting our cards and seeing what they have to say. All right, 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. And like I said, one of the things that I was finding interesting about the way this spread goes is that a lot of times we have spreads that are built kind of in a chronological procession of how we read the cards, where the first card is the first part of the reading and we will towards the end. This one is depending on where you are and what it is you want to get from the reading, it can actually be flipped on its head. And the last card can become the first card, or the middle card can become the first card. So it all just depends on how you want to interact with it. And I will kind of do both because we do have people that are watching from both sides of the world. And so the first card in the reading, it represents light. And depending on what side of the line you are at, it can either represent, what's coming into light or what is going to slowly start to step into the shadows. And so for me, being that it is the longest day of the year, after today, the days are going to start to get shorter. So those of us in the Northern Hemisphere are going to be looking at this card as an idea of what is going to be stepping into the shadows, what is going to be preparing to rest that we've been working on. And those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, you're going to be seeing this as what is going to start to emerge out of the darkness as you are now having the longest night of the year. And so let's see what is waiting for us in the light. And here, interestingly enough, we have the Queen of Wands. And so the Queen, she's coming in and so when you look at it from the positioning, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, the Queen is coming in and saying, it's time to take a step back, right? You've been working on following your passions, you've been working on following your desires, your drives, all of the motivation, and it's time to start to kind of take a step back and really start to get introspective in the sense of, are you really following your desires? Are you really being motivated out of what feels right for you? Are you giving your passions and your desires the right nutrients in order to be able to cultivate them? And if you've been in a constant practice of, creating and going and putting all of your energy into the things that you really want to do, this is probably a good time for us to start stepping back so that we can refuel, we can restock our resources, we can really get an idea of where we are, because everything needs a time to down, right? Like the winter is that period of time of rest and of sleep. And even though we're stepping into summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, which is very much still a big growth season, so a lot of things going on, what it is it's moving towards that period where it's restful. And so for us up in the Northern Hemisphere right now, this is what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to really start to take a step back and allow what we've put in motion to kind of keep going, right? Because even if you think about it, the summer isn't about work. The summer is about tending to the fields that have been planted in the spring and allowing them to do the work that they are meant to do. And that's what we're being asked to do. Whereas in the southern hemisphere, the Queen of Wands is calling you forward. The Queen of Wands is saying, okay, use this time to really put your plan together because you're going to be asked to start to step out into the light. You're going to be asked to start to burn that fuel, maybe to keep warm, depending on how cold it gets where you are. But at the same time, it's like it is time now to rely on yourself and your passions and your desires to motivate you to really start to move out of the slower, lethargic times that the winter tends to bring. The next card that we have is the third card that I placed, which is the dark. And again, it's the same thing, right? Like, so we're at the shortest night of the year. Those in the southern hemisphere are, as I said, the longest night of the year. And so we're really going to be looking at the third card in the spread as what is the darkness covering, right? Like, so as we start to move into the darker times where the light was saying what's stepping into the darkness, the dark side is more like what is emerging from the darkness. And so it's just the opposite way of looking at it. So with the Queen of Wands, we were looking at, what is starting to step back? What is it that we've been doing that's starting to step back? And in the Southern Hemisphere, it's like, what is now going to start to step out and get clarity? And then we have, sorry, the Ace of Cups. And the Ace of Cups is for us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's what is now going to emerge from the darkness? What is going to become known that we may have, not really known before, but now it's allowing it to kind of be. And then with the Southern Hemisphere, the darkness card is saying, like this is the time for you to be looking at what is ready to kind of be, I'm going to put it this way, what is ready to be planted in the dark, right? So instead of saying like what's stepping back, this darkness is a time of incubation. And so we're being asked as we move into the summer, what is it that is, in that darkness that is starting to kind of emerge from the ground? And in the Southern Hemisphere, it's what are you now putting into the darkness so that it can start to grow? And I hope I didn't convolute that too much and make it too confusing. But either way, we have the Ace of Cups, which is really interesting because what's coming, what is now starting to come is this idea that, whether you're planting the seeds that are going to, come to fruition in the summer, or whether you're starting to see what's coming up out of the darkness for you to be able to look at and interact with it, it's all going to be about what you're feeling, your wellness, your understanding of where you belong and what helps you to be authentic, what helps you to, cleanse whatever's going on within you so that in this darkness, right, whether you're just about to erupt from the darkness or whether you're just about to be put into the darkness, it's that moment of anticipation. But it's not the same kind of anticipation you would get with, say, the wands or the same kind of clarity that would come with the swords. This is that the best way I can put it is that Christmas morning, right? Where you get up and it's that moment just before you get up and go down and see if there's presents that's been left. It's that moment of anticipation where everything in the world is possible. The Ace of Cups holds this magical spark to it of anything that you could possibly imagine is already there for you. And that the universe is also telling you that anything that is beyond your capability to imagine is also there for you. And so there's this feeling that what those in the northern hemisphere are going to start to see coming out of the darkness is the power that our imagination can give to us. And those of you in the southern hemisphere, the Ace of Cups is saying what you're planting is your imagination so that it can sit and it can lie dormant over the winter time so that when you reach Litha in 6 months, then you're going to be looking at what your imagination is bringing forward. And at that point, we're going to be putting something else into the ground. And it's just part of the cycle, which is very nice because we've got that spiral on here, right? So every time you reach that point and you put something back into the earth or you start to reap something up, it's always coming from what came before, but it's just a little bit more. It's just a little bit, I don't want to say better, but in a sense it is because it's this idea of moving forward. It's this idea of clarity. And so that's kind of what's going on right now. But the question that we still have left to look at is the middle card, which is us and where we find ourselves between light and dark. And it's also interesting that we have fire, which can become very, very bright. And then we have the water, which, the bottom of the ocean is dark. It's pitch black. So I like how we've got like this evened up. And then we have like fire and water, which we have the summer, and then we have like the winter snow and everything. So I really do like how these cards are actually playing out in this idea of what's going on. And so here we are in the middle looking at what we're being called to do, what we're being called to pay attention to. And here we have the emperor. And I think it's very fitting, one, that we have a major arcana that is standing between the two, because this is like these magical days, the solstice, the equinox, the cross quarter days, like these are all days where the universe really comes online and says, hey, I'm going to give you your quarterly report, like your to-do list for the next quarter. And so to have this come in the position for us is saying, as we move into Litha, as we move into Yule, the universe is coming and saying, all right, there's some rules that we're going to put into place for you. There's some boundaries that need to be put into place, and there's some guidelines that you need to follow. And we're going to put these in. However, how you do it will be dependent on what you're passionate about right now, what you're creating, what you're starting to step back from, and your imagination. How is your imagination going to be able to craft boundaries that will be able to keep you in this constant flow of following your passions and imagining better worlds and then creating the better worlds because you're passionate about it and then imagining how it could be, even better. That's the emperor stepping in, and the emperor stepping in and saying, you know what, this is what it's going to be, and this is the important thing to remember. And so with the emperor here, what we're going to be doing is we're really going to be looking at how are we doing this differently? And I say that because the emperor is connected to Aries, and Aries is the beginning of the zodiac wheel. And Aries is always kind of seen as this pioneer, go-getter, let's get things going, let's go off, and we're going to push the boundary. And so the emperor's coming in, and you can see it's all cracking off, and the true emperor from underneath is being revealed because now the emperor has found the courage, found the determination, found the motivation, and for lack of better words, has found the passion and the inner passion at that, because it's the queen, and the imagination to think beyond limitations, to think beyond boundaries, to move into a new realm, a new way of being, a new way of interacting with people. And so the more the emperor starts to break this shell of what maybe society has put on, the boundaries of what different groups have put on, and says, I am going to do this in my way, and I'm going to set boundaries so that my passions, my desires, and my imagination is no longer going to be contained in the ways that they have been contained in the past. And so I think that makes this solstice a very, very powerful, what's the word that I'm trying to think of? Not introduction. Um, hmm initiation into what's coming, because there's a lot of talk that I hear around the world is starting to shift, and there's a lot of focus on the structures and the systems that are collapsing and falling apart. And that's what the fallen pieces of the stone on the emperor represent. Is we've reached a point in time where all of these structures, all of these things, they need to fall apart. They will be broken to pieces. And we need to be able to make sure that what we're doing is we're keeping that in mind, so that as we move forward, what we're creating is we're creating from our passions and our imagination and our desire, right, for the two of them to balance into a new kind of wellness that we really haven't seen or experienced on the planet to this point. And the emperor is saying, I will help you hold that line. So we've been given some pretty big boots to fill, and I hope that with that you find something that you can take forward with you over the next few months, and that, you know, wherever you are in the world, you're understanding what is being asked of you at this time. So with that, take care, and I will see you around the webs.